tutorial is just about a kind of not detailed class, okay, because it was done by my student. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So here is one of my students in a studying hard bag with Ankara. So she's trying to wrap excess fabric into the flap. This is the main body of the bag. She has applied gum on the body. She allowed it to dry for about 5 minutes and she puts it on the wrong side of the fabric. And she's trying to smoothen out the wrinkle, then cut excess Ankara fabric out, because we are going to be folding this Ankara fabric onto the stabilizer. In this case, we are just using leather. We can also use fiber as a stabilizer. So she's trying to apply gum at the corner of the fabric, basically wrapping the fabric onto the leather. So this is the second panel. She's trying to do the same to the second panel. This is the side panel now. So for the measurement, I'm just going to be leaving the measurements in the description box below. Please try and check out the measurements for this bag. All right. So I'm just going to be leaving the measurements in the description box. Please try and check the description box. So trying to cut out excess fabric to wrap onto the side panel. This is the soft panel. She has cut notches on the side panel for easing sewing. The notches cut there is just 1 by 1 inches. All right, if you don't understand, you can watch my previous video. I've done lots of video about how to make the side panel and a similar bag. I'm going to leave a video on top that relates to this video. She's still doing the side panel right now, so she's just applying gum with her finger at the tip so that it can glue or gum very well. So as you can see, the panels have been prepared and wrapped. So she's trying to measure out the stabilizers. To get the stabilizer adjusts the parts of the leather that you are going to put on these prepared panels to make them kind of hard. Okay, so to make it easy for the machine to sew, by the time you finish cutting them out with the same template, you are just going to be reducing each of them by ½ inches so that they don't get on the way by the time we are sewing with our machine. It's basically doing the same to the flap. She's reducing by 1 or ½ inch to make it easy for the machine to sew. In this case, she's reducing by 1 inch. She's just going to connect this mark. She's going to cut on the inner line so that by the time we lay them together, it will not get on the way while sewing with our machine. This is for the flap. I want to lay the stabilizer on the flap just to make it hard or sturdy. The flap, you can actually put 2 stabilizers or interfacing. As I said, I'm using leather. You can also use fiber. She has laid one leather, which she has reduced by 1 inch. This is the second one. She's trying to lay it to make it hard. Okay guys, the measurement I'm going to be leaving in the description box. After doing this, just take your iron and kind of heat it down. This will make it hard. All right, just heat it down. What she's trying to do is she's trying to measure out where she's going to be fitting the bottom feet. For the bottom feet, you are just going to take 2.5 inches by 1.5 inches. The bottom panel is going to measure, I'll leave the measurement in the description box. It's advisable for you to fix the bottom feet or stance before you stabilize it or add your interface to it. So she has fixed the bottom studs. Now it's for her to add the interface. Reduce the interfacing by 0.5 inches or 1 inch. Okay, she's using 2 of these because I want the bottom panel to be really hard. All right, once you've done that, just hit a bit with your hammer just to make it stay wear, and also to kind of make it hard. She's doing the second main panel. It's like a step-by-step work by my student, one of my students. So she's going to, after reducing it by 1 inch, she's just going to lay 2 layers of stabilizers on it. She's using the same material she wrapped the Ankara with as the stabilizer or the interface. We are done with the wrapping and preparations. All the panels have been prepared and wrapped. The flap has been prepared. The main panel, the bottom panel, the side panels, they have all been done, and the bottom panel has been installed with bottom stands. So it's time to cut out the lining for this prepared different parts of the bag. So to get the lining, you just lay the panels on top of the lining. She's using suede, horse blood suede to be specific. So you lay your panel, different panel on the line, just draw around it. You draw around it and cut outside that line. It's better for it to be excess than when it's smaller, because when it's excess you can trim off, but when it's smaller you won't be able to correct whatever mistake you make from that. She has done that of the bottom. This is for the flap. Now she just laid the repaired panel on the wrong side of the suede we are using for lining. She's just going to draw around it, as you can see, and later she's going to cut outside that line. So she's cutting aside that line. This is what we are going to be using as our lining for the flap. So before she lays it on the flap, she's going to be attaching or fixing the magnetic snaps. So here she's trying to measure out the position where she's going to be putting the magnetic snap. And to fix the magnetic snap, just from this tip you just measure at 1 by 1 inches. So once you've measured it out, you're going to place your washer and mark on the hose on the washers to get where you're going to be piercing your hose on. Magnetic snaps have been fixed. She's applying gum on the flap. So after applying gum, she's going to place the lining on the flap and make sure it's well placed. Okay, so guys, she's trying to trim off excess lining for the flap. Now she's trying to get the measurements for the lining of the main panel. So she basically does the same thing, applying the same process, placing the already prepared panel on the wrong side of the lining and cutting outside the line. And this particular cutout is for the main panel. So before she places the lining on the main panel, she's going to apply gum on the main panel first, so that this will hold the lining temporary. So you can see she has applied gum and she has placed the lining on top. One other thing you can do, guys, is, so if you want to put pockets, it's very easy to do. she wants to place the flap on the main panel, so she's trying to measure out the position where she's going to place the flap. All right, to measure 1/2 inches where she's going to place the flap on, because we want to get a very straight and professional looking bag. So once she has placed it, she'll put a bit of gum at the wrong side of the flap, just a tiny line of gum, and she's going to place it on the main panel, one of the main panels, and she's now sewing. So when you are sewing, make sure that you are sewing at 1/2 inch, or just what she's doing as she's sewing, making sure that the edge of the machine foot is at the edge of the flap. As you can see, I don't know if you can see it, and you just use your hand, because in this case it's hard, it's not very hard, because we are now sewing almost 4 layers of interfacing or leather. Okay, so you use your hand or rush or all over it, as I always say. So once you've gotten, you back stitch, and that will sew the flap. So now once she has back stitched, now she's now sewing around the flap to hold the external and the lining together. Okay, make sure at every point, put your needle down, turn and sew. Okay, just make sure you follow the shape of the flap. Okay, so once you get to the edge, you can now back stitch. Inside is a lining of the bag. So the next thing she's trying to do now, she's trying to sew the bottom panel to the main panel of the bag, the one that has the flap. So guys, on the main panel, she's also going to measure 1/2 inch on the main panel. She's going to connect these marks. This is where she's going to be placing the bottom panel. Now she's applying a tiny bit of gum on the wrong side of the bottom panel. As you can see, they place it on that marked area on the main panel. All right, so she's now clipping them together just to hold them in place before she takes it to the sewing machine, and she's going to sew. Before then, she's just trying to hit it with hammer just to hold it in place. And she's trying to sew the bottom panel to the main panel, the one that have the flap sewn to it already. So now we now have the flap, the main panel, and the bottom panel be sewed to the main panel, right? So you can see that excess lining is still coming out from the bottom panel. She's going to trim this out later. So guys, we now have the interior of each sewn, the flap, the main panel, and the bottom panel. She also sewed the other main panel to the bottom panel. So she has marked out 1/2 inch where she's going to place the main panel, guys. So guys, after applying tiny gum on the bottom panel, she's just going to put it on top of the main panel and clip it. So she's just going to take a hammer and kind of hit it a bit to hold it in place. Then she's going to sew on it. But she's trying to do the second side panel now by applying gum to it, then placing the lining on it. Okay, so she's trying to kind of smoothing out the wrinkles from the lining. So what she's going to do, she's just going to fold the lining on top. She's going to fold it. You can also trim the lining because it's thick enough to be trimmed. You don't necessarily have to fold, but she said she really wants to fold her own, so she's going to fold the top to kind of give it a neat look. I kind of scolded her after this video. She ought to have fold a bit upward. So after folding, she's just going to hit it in place and top stitch on the side panel first. So guys, what she's doing here, she's sewing those notches that we are cut on the side panels. Please go watch my other video. I've done like 2 videos on how to make a similar bags. Okay, so I'm going to leave a link on this video where you can watch them, so try and watch them to understand this particular video better. She has sewn one of the side of the cut notches, so she's sewing the second one now. So guys, she's trying to fix the side panels to the bag, because after sewing the side panel, the last thing is going to be fixing the handles. Okay, so now she's trying to fix the side panels to the bag. So something I forgot to mention, she wants to fix the magnetic snap, so she decided to fix the side panels and clip them. She's going to use this as a means to figure out where she's going to be placing the magnetic snaps on the main panel. Don't forget that we've already fixed magnetic snaps on the flap. Now it's time to fix on the main panel, which are the main magnetic snaps. So what she did was to fix the side panels to clip them to the bag, and this will enable her to kind of use that to determine where she's going to fix the magnetic snaps. Okay, it's just like a trick to make it kind of accurate and what she's doing now, she's fixing the lock to the middle of the flap. So she wants to fix the first part of the lock to the middle of the flap. So guys, the cut out here is not wide enough. She's trying to just increase it a bit. When you are doing your own, make sure it's not too wide so that your lock does not fall out. So she has fixed the first part of the lock and she wants to fix the second part. So you just place the flap on the main panel, then at the middle you mark out where you are going to fix the second part of the lock. She has made that mark. She's going to take the other part of the lock, place it at the center of that mark, and use it to figure out where she's going to place. After fixing the lock, you just top stitch on the second main panel. Make sure you don't top stitch when you've not fixed the lock. Fix the lock, then you top stitch. Other part we are going to be doing is sewing the size to the bag. Okay, Guys, she has top stitched, and what she's doing, she's sewing the size to the bag now. So just watch as she's doing that. So once she's finished sewing one side, she's just going to trim off the thread and burn off the thread. So she's sewing the second side panel to the bag now. Okay. Guys, the last part, which is fixing the eyelets to the bag, she's going to need hole punch, hammer, and some eyelets. She's also going to need tape. So guys, to fix the eye length, you're just going to take 2.5 inches from the edge of the flap, and in between them you're just going to take 1.5 inches. Okay, in between them you can just take 1.5 inches. I'm going to be leaving a link where you can watch more of it. So once you've marked out, you are going to hit it with that hole punch and put your eyelet inside. You're just going to secure with the eyelet machine. Okay, so you put it this way, you put the eyelet washer, just put the eyelet washer just like this, put it in the eyelet machine, and you press down the handle of the eyelet machine. That will secure it in place. I'm also going to leave a link on how you can fix eyelet. So after you fix the eyelets to the bag, you're just going to put your chain inside, and our bag is finished.